Hello. Today we're discussing Parshah Yitro. Who is Yitro? Yitro is one of the highest priests of Midian, or at least used to be. Very, very high-ranking idol worshipper. He is, by the way, the father-in-law of Moses, Moshe. And the Parsha is named by his name, Yitro. He had, by the way, 7 names. Yitro, Jethro, Putiel, and there are a few others which I don't remember all of them. There are numerous explanations why he had so many different names. One of them is he had 7 names because he had 7 daughters, and every time he had to pay for the wedding, he was in debt. So he was changing his name, obviously calling himself bankrupt, and changing his name and starting all over again. But it's a very cynical explanation to that to that question. Anyway, Jethro was a very decent person, generally speaking, because Torah tells us that at some point in time he was one of the 3 advisors to the Pharaoh. There were 3 of them: Bilam, Job, and Jethro. Now, when Pharaoh asked them to advise him as what to do with this Jewish problem, that's well before the Exodus, and what has happened, Bilam actually advised him to enslave Jews and to do exactly what he actually has done. Job ran away. Job basically said nothing, right? And Jethro, because he didn't want to say that the Pharaoh should let the Jews go, basically, and to treat them very nicely, because he knew this may end his life, he basically ran away and finished up in Midian, where he became one of the high priests of Midian. However, because he was studying spirituality and very deeply, and he eventually came to conclusion that idol worshipping is not correct, it doesn't make sense. And this is when the society actually rejected him, when he started proclaiming that there is only one God. Basically, exactly the same ideas of monotheism as Abraham was proclaiming much earlier, of course. And he eventually converted to Judaism. Anyway, the other thing is, in this parsha, it starts from the fact that he advises Moshe that he must delegate his judicial and teaching duties to the others and to create heads, to select appropriate people who would be the heads of thousands, 500s, 100s, 50s, and tens of people. So a whole system, a judicial system, basically was put into motion through his advice to Moshe. And then the Parsha switches to the preparations and the actual fact of Jewish people receiving the Torah from Hashem. Now, the question comes up immediately, why there is this advice from Jethro taking place in that Parsha, and then it switches back to the more chronological sort of chain of events, where in the previous Parsha we finished up with Jews crossing the Red Sea and singing a song of praise to Hashem. And now they were wandering for 49 days, going through the desert, fought Amalek, and now they came to the foot of Mount Sinai. Now, suddenly we read about Jethro's advice and everything about him and related to him. There are very good reasons to that, and I will come to that in a few minutes. Now, and then what happens is the most historical event in history of humanity, not only Jews. Because when Hashem was giving Torah to Jewish people. No bird flew. There was no swell in the ocean or seas. The rivers frozen, stopped, like no motion. Everything has stopped at those moments when Jewish people were receiving the Torah. I will not go into the details of the whole process of how Jews were receiving the Torah and the fact that Hashem actually said only 2 first commandments, right? And then the other 8 commandments were basically given to Moshe. Moshe received them and conveyed them to the elders and to the Jewish people. Right? In those 10 commandments entail in themselves the whole Torah. Now, what is very important is the fact that this was the beginning of creation of the nation. A nation building exercise. So what Hashem did here, just look at it step by step so that we will together understand what exactly has transpired here. And in order to understand this, we must look a little bit backwards into events which took place hundreds if not thousands years prior to that. And this is what Rebbe Jonathan Sachs is talking about in one of his articles on Yitro. What he is saying is that humanity, at the junctions when the way of communicating thoughts, ideas, thinking patterns were changing, this is when humanity was making a quantum leap in their development. So, yes, there was a writing in humanity. Humanity developed writing in China, the hieroglyphs, the pictograms in Egypt, and in Americas, the Aztecs and the Incas had pictograms as well. And in 8 different parts of the planet, basically, writing has developed. However, all of them were very complicated and were basically the domain of the elite, the priesthood. So the elites knew how to write. To give you an idea of complexity of this, even today, Chinese Mandarin language entails 60,000 hieroglyphs, where each hieroglyph is a whole sentence, actually. So you can imagine the complexity of this and how the difficulty of studying it. And that's why only the privileged few were able to write up until these years. So we are talking year 2449, which is 3,329 years ago, 3,329 years ago, as per Jewish calendar. Approximately at the same time, Jewish people already developed what we call alphabet. Aleph, Bet. And that has simplified the system of writing. So only 22 Hebrew letters were required in order to communicate all the thoughts, ideas in writing. As a consequence of this, of the development of the alphabet, a lot of people saying, Jews call it Aleph Bet, and the Greeks call it alphabet. Funny that, because they basically copied the Hebrew alphabet, and to prove that, look at this. The first 4 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and Dalet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and Dalet. The first letters of the Greek alphabet, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta. It's exactly the same letters, right? Now, so the Greeks not only copied the Torah eventually, but copied the whole principle of alphabet and changed, obviously, the appearance of the letters. But the principle remains exactly the same. Now, with the alphabet, the process of educating people in writing has become much simpler, much more organized, and much easier to convey from teacher to student. And this is why Jewish people receiving the Torah, which was written in Aramaic and Hebrew, which using exactly the same letters, the ability to write and to read the Torah made the Jewish people the people of the book. And that has created an unprecedented development in the sophistication of intelligence, intellectual mind of the masses, not just privileged few. Do you realize that within few decades, basically, or a few hundred years even, at the time of the first temple even, right, the 100% of Jewish population were literate, totally literate, 100%. Every child was going through public schooling system. And this is at the time when in Europe, only privileged few could read and write. Majority of the population in Europe was stuck in illiteracy, inability to write and to read at all. And the same applies to the Americas, and in Asia, in China, only few privileged too could write the sophisticated hieroglyphs. So what we can see is Hashem has started with Jewish people a process of intellectual development of his nation, of his people. And this is why the main statement of the process of giving the Torah, Hashem says that with receiving those 10 commandments, Jews became the nation of the priests and the holy nation. I'm not sure that we will be able to look at both aspects of this, but let's look at what it means, the nation of the priests. As I said a few minutes ago, because of ability to read and write, only the priesthood in Egypt and later on in Greece and in Rome were able basically to read and write, and knowledge is power, and maintain power over the population. Where amongst the children of Israel, everybody could read and write. Everybody could read the Torah. As a matter of fact, it was compulsory to read the Torah and to be able to understand. Now, and this is why that was absolutely important. It was the part of nation building created by Hashem. Now, coming back to Jethro, why this Parsha is called Jethro? Why the whole story of Jethro's advice is here? Because the first stage of building a nation, Hashem decided to be implementing the judicial system, the system of rights and wrongs, what is right and what is wrong, what is correct, what is incorrect, what is a mitzvah and what is a sin. And so he gave us the 613 mitzvot and explained gave us the positive mitzvahs and the negative mitzvahs. So this is like a skeleton of the nation, the definition of how the nation functions. On top of this skeleton, obviously he builds the meat, and he provided all the 10 commandments, which entail everything, the aspects of behavior as well, of relationship between the people, and within the families, outside the families, within community, outside community, to the other nations, every aspect of nation building. And this is why the Jewish people are called the nation of the priests, because their primary task is to be the priests, The, where in the other nations, the priests are the elite, the hierarchy of the society, where here everybody is a priest. What does it mean? It means that you and me and everybody else, every Jew, our primary task is to learn Torah and to convey the Torah to the other nations. This is our primary purpose. This is our purpose in life. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now here. Then Hashem says, and you will be a holy nation. What is holy? Holiness, ability to communicate with God. Now, holiness is an aspect of either matter or physicality or time. Now, when we're talking about holiness as an aspect of physicality, let's look at it. In the time of the first temple, there was the outside area of the tabernacle. Let's say the tabernacle, it's simpler. In the tabernacle, outside area of the camp, outside the tabernacle. Then there was the whole camp, right? Then there was the yard of the tabernacle, which was already some sort of a sanctity, because there was a gate where not everybody, if you were unclean for many reasons, you could not enter to the yard even of the tabernacle. Now then there was the holy area, where there was the menorah and all, and the bread table, etc. Right? And then there was the Holy of Holies, the area where Hashem's presence was taking place. So that's the holy. So with the high priest moving from one area to the other, he was actually entering a different level of holiness in the physical world. Now, holiness can exist in time as well. And the simplest explanation of that, all 6 days a week, we are in the physicality. We're doing our work, our physical aspects of our life. But Shabbos, Shabbat, is a holiday. It's a day of holiness, day of introspection and connection to Hashem. So what is holiness? Yes, we are a holy nation, a nation which respects Shabbat and follows Shabbat as a holiness space in time, as a holy time, actually. And this is why Hashem calls us the nation of the priests and the holy nation. And on this day, which was basically between the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, at the foot of Mount Sinai, we became the nation of the priests and the holy nation. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next Parsha.